We are live. It is Empire State of Baseball, episode number 116 on this Monday, March the 10th, 2025, airing on Instagram, X, and YouTube. And as always, powered by StreamYard. All right, gentlemen, we are down one today, but for good reason. And how about this? We'll just get right into it. Congratulations to Joe and his lovely wife, Chrissy, for bringing young Theodore Joseph Puglisi into the world. That's why Joe is not here today. So we're wishing nothing but the best to our good friends, Joe and Chrissy here. Corey.
Yep, 100%. Congratulations to both of them. I know Joe would have loved to be here today. But yeah, no, wishing them both the best. And it's our, I guess now this is our sixth member of the ESB family. If you Tom's got one, Joe's got one. Now Tom's got another on the way. So we'll be lucky number 7 pretty soon.
Look at that.
Sure will be. Joe, enjoy being just neck deep and crying and piss and poop for the foreseeable future.
Neck deep in crying, piss, and poop. That sounds like Yankees Twitter today after the news that got laid out just about a couple of hours ago with Gerrit Cole. We're going to get into that in just a few short moments here on our Empire State of Baseball episode number 116. Today's episode, though, going to be a lot of fun. We're going to get into the rundown. But before we do that, Tom, let's talk about our friends over at Rhoback.
We would love to talk about our friends at Rhoback. We are back with Rhoback, and more importantly, Rhoback is back with their Azalea collection. They're always their most anticipated drop of the year is starting now. If you're someone who enjoys golf and the Masters coming up, those azaleas, the pinks, the greens, all those kind of colors are coming into fashion, into season. And Rhoback will not disappoint with brand new polos, Q-zips, hoodies. They got some kids stuff. They got some women's stuff in there. Head over to rhoback.com. Promo code TWASPL15 will get you 15% off your order. Again, some favorites from previous years, but then also some new stuff as well. And it looks like they're going to keep coming out with some new things. So keep checking them out. Use the promo code. Get some awesome stuff. Promo code TWASPL15.
And a Rhoback Rundown is brought to you by Rhoback. And for today's rundown, it's a real simple one since we're still in preseason mode, so our schedule is still simplistic, to say the least. The Empire Express makes a return, though. Empire Express is normally our regular season segment, but we got a lot of news going on. Yankees, Mets, obviously. Gerrit Cole news, the biggest thing. But even in Mets town, too, there was an injury that took place over the weekend. Francisco Alvarez. We'll talk about Alvarez. But we'll get into some good, too. There's some good happening in Metslandia involving a former Yankee. So we'll talk about that in just a few short moments. And later on tonight, I'm looking forward to this one. It's our third annual ESB March Madness bracket. And no, we're not talking about college basketball. Today, we get to talk about fictional baseball players for tonight's bracket. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure to stay tuned for our bracket later on tonight. Also, real quick, before we get into our Empire Express, just want to shout out some members of our chat here. Shout out to Brick Masters. He says, congrats, Joe. A lot of congrats for Joe here. Alana coming in. Congrats, Joe and Chrissy. Again, a lot of love for the Puglisis here. Congrats, Joe, from CK over at Yankees Pod. Swift's in the building. Tom's looking sharp in those shades. And we also have Chris Nieves here. Chris Nieves, my guy, Joe, congrats on giving birth to Juan Chris Nieves Soto Met Yank Puglisi. And a terrible spelling of the last name of Puglisi there. But let's get into it. We'll start things off with our Empire Express. And Tom, it seemed almost inevitable when the initial news got out over the last few days that Gerrit Cole might be facing dire circumstances with his elbow. And certainly that's exactly what happened here. Jim Bowden, of many reporters here, tweets out, the Yankees make it official that Gerrit Cole will undergo Tommy John surgery tomorrow at Cedars-Sinai under Dr. Neil Elatrosh, who will perform the operation. Tom, it doesn't come to a surprise here, but it's still unfortunate to read that the ace will be out for the entire season.
First and foremost, real shame Joe's not here today. I would love to see him attempt to pronounce Elatrache. I think we would have gotten Elatrache. I think maybe what we would have gotten. I think we missed out on some content there. But yeah, it just it didn't sound like it was gonna be good from the updates as they were coming along. And yeah, the Max Fried stuff makes sense now even more. They immediately pivoted. It seems like, Cole literally left it all on the mound in that game 5, and that was going to be it for him. And the problem is, I know Yankee Twitters and everyone and fans are looking at who's available free agent wise. Not a ton out there. How does Patrick Corbin sound? Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, bring our good friend James Paxton back, Spencer Turnbull. Obviously, there's no one really left that's going to impact this rotation. It's just going to be another Carlos Carrasco type guy. Trades, the Cease keeps getting thrown out there and those type of deals. I don't know if the Yankees are going to go that route. I think they might try to piece it together. I'd almost rather, if they're going to spend some capital to try to improve the offense with Stanton out for maybe the whole season. We don't really know, because the rotation, I don't know what's out there that's going to make this rotation much better. Yet you have Fried, you need Rodon to step up, you need Schmidt to take this step, you need Stroman to be solid, Warren to step up. I know it's a lot of ifs and a lot of wishes, but I don't know what great options are really out there.
Corey, from your side, how are you interpreting this? Are the Yankees at dire straits? You think they can get away with what they currently have? How are you interpreting all this?
A couple of things. I mean, obviously, it's a huge blow. It's probably the second biggest blow the Yankees could have had. The first being Judge, obviously. Cole would be the second one up there. So obviously, you're not really going to replace his output unless you're giving up big time capital now to try to get a front end starter like a Cease or someone else. I just don't see that happening at this juncture. You mentioned it too, Rich. It's a good thing they brought in Fried, or Tom. You mentioned, you ran through it. If they didn't bring that in, they would be in trouble. I mean, that would be a New York Mets on paper rotation in terms of the depth. But you look at it right now too. Try to compare it to last year. So last year, the pitching was really a strength for the Yankees. And Cole started off the year hurt too. Obviously, completely different scenario. He only missed a little bit of time as opposed to out the whole year. So if Fried, kind of cancels out what Cole did, if not better, if Rodon's the same, you need Schmidt to hopefully come back and replace what Heel gave you. Stroman, Warren, the season's not over by any means, especially because the American League, it's the weaker league. You guys should be okay. The question is, you need Fried to be healthy and give you the level of output you expect from him the whole year. Rodon needs to be just as good, if not better, than he was last year. And you need a couple of the other guys to step up. Who's going to be that Luis Heel breakout season this year? Could it be a Will Warren? Will Warren's had a very nice spring, so that's a possibility. So by no means is the season over. It's just a really big blow. And the path to try and repeat as AL champs and try to get over the hump as World Series champs definitely got a lot harder, but it is by no means impossible. I mean, look at the Mets last year. The Mets starting rotation by far was their weakest position going into the season. It kind of is again this year. And the Mets made the CS. And the Yankees rotation as it stands today, without Garrett Cole, on paper, is better than the one that the Mets started the season with last year. And the Mets lost their ace last year too, Kodai Senga. Granted, different scenario. We thought Senga would miss maybe 2 months, come back. He ended up coming back in July, got hurt within the first game. So a little bit of a different scenario. But the Mets made a CS run with an on-paper worse rotation. Again, it's definitely not impossible. It's just a much harder path.
Special shout out to 3 who just joined us in here. Jacob Petruzzi, what up, fam? What's going on? Jacob, Jordan, Tyler in the building. And we have a new face in here. We have Victoria. Hey, what's going on, Victoria? Thanks for joining the Empire State of Baseball chat room for the very first time. Really do appreciate it. But yeah, listen, I mean, there's not really much more I can add to it, to what Tom and Corey just mentioned here. But yeah, the Max Fried signing has just a little bit more importance now with everything going on.
Oh, yeah.
And it's funny because when the Fried signing happened, I sat back, guys, and I was like, was it truly necessary for the Yankees to put funds into starting pitching, where it seemed like one of the reasons that the Yankees went as far as they did in 2024 is because of their starting pitching. And on paper, barring health, Gerrit Cole, Carlos Rodon, Luis Hill, Clark Schmidt, Marcus Stroman, formidable five. They bring in Max Fried, and as great as Max Fried is as a pivot, I was sitting here like, I don't know if that was the move. Oh, well, clearly it was the right move to bring in Max Fried, because I can only imagine what the Yankees' depth would have looked like, because you're probably talking about Carlos Carrasco having a rotation spot. Will Warren would have definitely been in that rotation spot. And you mentioned Will Warren, and I'll pull up those spring numbers thus far for Warren and the rest of the projected staff. But yeah, the Warren numbers are great. 1.54 ERA, 11 2/3 innings pitched. You kind of look at that and you're thinking, oh, the Yankees got luck out of Luis Hill last year when Gerrit Cole went down with his injury, and everybody thought the world was going to be on fire then and the season was over. And they got what they got out of Luis Hill. Now, I'm not saying Will Warren's going to go out there and put in the Rookie of the Year campaign that Luis Hill had in those first 2 months. I think that's just an unrealistic ask. But if you look at this rotation, 1 through 5 guys, all things considering, it is still a pretty decent rotation that can get you through a majority of this season. So I'm not going to lose my mind over what happened today. And obviously, yes, losing Gerrit Cole sucks. Not denying that. But I do think the Yankees can get by with this rotation. And Tom mentioned some options externally. You mentioned you can go to free agency, maybe get a guy like a Lance Lynn and Anthony Escalfani at the back end of the rotation if you want, just to have a depth piece. But I don't even know if the Yankees need to go there at this current moment. I think they might be all right with what they currently have here, Thomas.
I think there will be all right for now. Again, like Corey mentioned, the AL is doo-doo this year. The Red Sox certainly have gotten better, but it seems like a lot of other teams took some steps back or made some lateral moves. So I think the Yankees should still hopefully be able to not necessarily just breeze into the playoffs, but make it pretty comfortably. I think what's going to be big, and we're looking ahead, is the trade deadline this year. We already know like the meme has started that the Yankees are going to get AL Rookie of the Year back at Luis Hill. And yeah, hopefully he comes back around that time. But they're going to need to really improve this team because it seems like it has some glaring holes. Now we'll see how it plays out over the next couple months and maybe some things figure out. Maybe Oswald Peraza just absolutely flashes at third and he just takes that job over. Maybe Will Warren is this year's Luis Hill. And so you don't know. But I think the Yankees are going to need to make some serious moves this year. I don't know if it's gonna happen now, but I think by the deadline, going to get that bat or going to get that pitcher is going to be very important, possibly both. Mm-hmm. If they really want to contend and beat a Dodgers level team in the World Series, if they even can get there.
Yeah, I agree 100% with Tom here too. I think you go into the season with what you have now. Don't try to mortgage your future on a panic move. The rotation as it stands today, it's still a middle, it's a middle of the pack rotation. It's not a bad, dreadful rotation. It's a middle of the pack rotation, which honestly should be good enough to at least tread water. You tread water for a couple of months, you get closer to the middle of the season, and then you assess the situation. If you find yourself at 500, above 500 in good playoff position, you go ahead, you make that splash, you go become a buyer. If the season, for whatever reason, turns on its head, well, now guess what? You saved your prospects and you didn't mortgage the future. I would honestly tread the water. You hope one of these guys, like a Will Warren, for instance, does Will Warren come out and pitch to a 3 ERA through June? If you get that out of the 5th spot, you're in a good spot. Does Stroman pitch okay? I don't know what Stroman is at this juncture of his career, but you would hope he can give you at least a 4th starter. Try to give you 5 or 6 innings each week and, give up a few runs here and there. Schmidt, if he's healthy, that's a nice piece. Really, he's at the top. If you have Fried and he's healthy the whole year, and Rodon, again, if he's the same or better as he was last year, you're still in a good spot and you can tread water. Obviously, once you get to the postseason, you really want the arms at that point. And, you saw it with the Mets. The rotation did good enough down the stretch. And then the Dodgers, every game they won, they put up a ton of runs on the Mets. So that's really where you want to get the arms. But I would wait to the deadline or closer to don't have to wait till July 31st. Wait till the mid-June, end of June, beginning of July. See where you are at that point. See which members of your rotation broke out. See which ones broke down. And then you adjust from there.
Last point I'll make, and then we'll make one more quick Yankee note on another big injury that happened. Entering the 2023 regular season, the Texas Rangers have made a pretty big investment into their starting rotation by adding the Mets' former ace, Jacob deGrom. Well, the Rangers had lost that big investment not too long into the 2023 season. Ranger fans sat back and were like, well, there it goes. That's their season. No, they figured out ways to make the moves that they needed to do during the middle of the season, adding guys like Jordan Montgomery and Max Scherzer to that rotation. And what did the Texas Rangers do in 2023, guys? Won the World Series.
Correct.
There have been teams that have faced this kind of perseverance, this kind of dilemma.
Look at the Dodgers rotation last year in the World Series. Look what the Dodgers rolled out in that.
They lost multiple aces.
It also helped to have the Dodgers offense to supplement what was going on.
Well, yeah, but look what the guys they were throwing out there. That rotation stunk.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But that offense was so good. Sometimes you get enough offense. Now, that's the other problem with the Yankees, because we said, well, is the bottom half of the offense going to be able to carry them? We didn't know if they were good enough with that high-end pitching. Now the offense really might have to step up, but we'll see. That's the thing with the Dodgers. I mean, they could put up a 10 spot any given night with that lineup. It's so deep, so much star power. It's crazy.
100%, man. A shout out to Jack Esposito, who's in our chat right now. Thank you, Jack, for tuning in. Folks, let's send out the link around for Empire State of Baseball. I know X is having a bunch of issues all day, so it's very possible the
Shocker again
is not working right now, and that's why it's kind of light today. But let's get that link out for YouTube, because YouTube is working perfectly fine, and that's the best way to enjoy Empire State of Baseball and join one of the best chats in all of YouTube. So make sure to hit that YouTube link out. All right, so real quick, Thomas, so I'm going to turn to you. We're going to talk a little bit about Giancarlo. Brian Hoke tweeted out the other day here. Stan had said his elbow injuries are considered severe in both elbows. He attributes it to bad adjustments from last season and is unsure when he will be able to resume baseball activities. If surgery is needed, he said it would be season ending. Tom, you have your own assessment, though, that you want to touch on when it comes to Mr. Giancarlo Stanton.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he clearly has some issues in his biceps, and although I am not a doctor, I am married to one. And kind of ran it by her. And most likely these elbow issues, again, are not from swinging the bat. It's from weightlifting. And you look at Stan and we look at there and the cutoff. He the man loves his weightlifting. He knows his curls, his biceps, all that kind of stuff. I think the Yankees told him after the end of the season, hey, you're beat down. You need to rest this offseason. And then he came back into camp, clearly didn't rest. Immediately his elbows were still an issue, because something like tennis elbow, although not all the time, it does kind of recover by you resting it and you just kind of taking some time off. Clearly he didn't do that. And that's why the Yankees seemed so pissed, I think, when he came back and it was just already hurt. It's because he didn't rest in the offseason. And now they're paying the price for it. Hopefully he can make whatever adjustments he needs to do if he has to have surgery. Again, I guess just like get it done so that way you can come back by October, hopefully, as long as we're there. Just a huge blow to the middle of that lineup, to a guy who, always shows up, when it matters most. But, the regular season, we haven't been able to count on him for half a decade now. And it's frustrating because Yankee fans got such a glimpse into what Stanton could just be, a healthy version of him in the playoffs last year, where he was just as good as Freddie Freeman, frankly, throughout the playoffs. This rest of his team just really let him down. And I don't know. It's another hole in this lineup, and it's now we're discussing the likes of a Ben Rice as a DH, which is a yikes. It's a big yikes. I think the Yankees should go out to try to find a bat. I think that hopefully will be available. either through free agency or through trades or someone available. Because I don't think offensively with the pitching staff the way it is, they can roll into the season with what they have and expect to score enough runs a game to win.
Yeah, what I said before too about waiting closer to the deadline, middle of the season to go get a pitcher. I agree. If there's one position they're going to upgrade, it's one of the positions on offense and try to get a little more pop in there. And again, you're not going to get a superstar player probably at this juncture, but just try to get major league talent, a reliable guy, give you 20 home runs, 285, nothing crazy. Again, you're not looking for an all-star. You're looking for MLB caliber players in that lineup. I think it'll be a little easier to acquire that type of player as opposed to a front-end starter. And honestly, your rotation, like we said, still middle of the pack. It's the offense has a little more questions. God forbid Judge has to miss a little bit of time, a 15-day IL stint or whatever. That'll be interesting to see. But Stanton, too. The guy with the weights, some of these players with the weights, I mean, I get it, man. I get it, I do, but it's not for baseball. Baseball should be all about hot yoga and booty bar, man. You should be trying to get loose. You want to be loose. You want to be flexible. You don't need 300 pounds of muscle to hit a ball 500 feet. You just need to be loose and be toned and be fit enough to play it at a speed and a sense of athleticism. It's a shame what happened. I 100% agree with Tom and his wife. This was weightlifting that killed his elbows, not swinging the bat. Swing it. I mean, he had the hard. I forget the exact stat, but he has the highest bat speed, I think, last year of any major leaguer.
Yep.
So that doesn't help, but I think it just doubles down with the weight. You add the weightlifting into it. It's just a whole mess. He should have been doing his best to stay loose and stay healthy and all about nutrition as opposed to the weight room. I get it. You want the muscles. I get it. But there's a lot more to it than just that. And again, I'm no fitness guru. I'm a 240-pound unit. I got more of a Cologne body than a Stanton body. But sometimes you just got to stay loose. That's the trick. It's not all about the muscles.
Look how long Bartolo Colon pitched with that body.
Exactly. Into his 40s.
He was slugging bombs with that body too, man.
Yep.
Remember that one. But yeah, man, it's unfortunate. I do sit here and question what was going into Giancarlo Stanton's mind this offseason. If this was something that he knew was going to be an issue, getting out of the postseason, it sucks. The only one positive I always say when there is a Giancarlo Stanton injury is at least the designated hitter spot is freed up to those who need to take a half a day, take a blow out of the field. But yeah, I lean towards Thomas when it comes to trying to assess that replacement with major league level talent. I do think the Yankees will want to look into that because let's face it, even before this all became news, the Yankees are still an incomplete team. Look at third base and what that may potentially be. So maybe by addressing the one position, hey, at least you have a full field. It's now the designated hitter spot is exactly what it's meant to be. It's a flex for those that want to get a blow out of the field. So so the injury news is mounting up for the Yankees, and I'm sure we'll have more by next week. But let's kick it over to the Mets side because they had a little bit of their own injury news this past weekend. Francisco Alvarez needs surgery to repair a fractured left hamate bone and will be out for 6 to 8 weeks. This was reported by Jeff Passan over the weekend. So Corey Favs, I turn to you here. When you look at the Mets catching depth chart, Luis Torrens obviously goes to the top of that list. When it comes to the backup role, is that something of concern for you? Are there a couple of names that you want to throw out there? And how concerning is this injury altogether for the Mets staff?
The part that's concerning is that it's the same hand and it's the same type of injury that he had last year. So it's just going to become a new thing now where he's got this fragile hand and the slightest issue, all of a sudden he's on the IL for an extended period of time. It's not the end of the world, and honestly, it doesn't impact my excitement level for the Mets by one bit. I am still absolutely pumped for this coming season. It's just unfortunate because this kid was at one point in time our top prospect. He has an absolute ton of raw power. but he struggled a lot last year. When he got hurt the first time last year, right before the injury, he was actually looking really well. He was looking like the Francisco Alvarez that we thought he would be. Hurt his hand, and he just never came back from the injury. So I'm a little concerned that when he comes back from it this time around, which, again, 6 to 8 weeks, given the time to ramp up to, you're probably looking June. I'm going to say June 1st to be a little conservative there. I'm a little concerned how he'll be when he comes back, considering how much he struggled with the same injury last year. In terms of the depth, I actually really like Luis Torrens. I thought he was exactly what you want in a backup catcher, high-end defense. Phenomenal defense. I saw him make a couple of throws last year. I was like, wow, how the hell did he throw that guy out at second base? So, and honestly, too, in terms of the mock lineups, Francisco Alvarez was consistently 7th or 8th in all of the mock lineups for the Mets. So Luis Torrens is going to be in the same type of spot. You know, he'll probably settle into the 8th spot if they want to give the 9th to someone a little more athletic. So I'm okay with it in the short term. The question is who's going to be that backup, because they have no other catchers right now on the 40-man roster. You'd hope it would have been a Kevin Parada, but he completely fell off the wagon. Another guy went from a top 3 prospect in the Mets system to, I don't even know if he's number 30 right now. I mean, he fell off that hard and was that ugly.
That's why you trade prospects when you can. Like, everyone loves, like, George Lombard's gonna be. Listen, man, if you can get
he looks good though.
Yeah, sure, cool. A lot of guys have looked good. You got to move these guys when you can. When you have a win now team, it's every year this happens. Like every year the trade deadline, people don't want to. We can't trade Spencer Jones. We can't trade. There's no way we could trade Spencer Jones. It's like, well, maybe Spencer Jones is going to stink, and you know what? Like maybe the guy who's good, and that's what they need to do.
Exactly. Same thing. You know, you never know. You can get something out of these players. I wish they traded Kevin Parada. I had him in so many mock trades, not this past offseason agenda, the one before. And his value went down a bit then. Now his value's in the gutter. In terms of the backup spot, I mean, again, you hope it's a guy who's only going to play once a week, maybe twice a week, just depending on the day after night game situation. The one name I would look out for is Jackson Reitz. Now, again, he's not on the 40-man roster. No other catcher except Torrens is on the 40-man roster, with the exception of Alvarez, who's out, obviously. But of the guys that the Mets have in the upper part of their system, Jackson Reitz is the only one that even has major league experience. He caught 6 games for the Giants last year. And he had a big grand slam yesterday, too. So he's the type of guy that'll probably go out there, not even hit 200, but maybe over the span of 2-3 months as a backup catcher, hit 5, 6, 7, 8 home runs, barely hit 200 ball. As long as he can play defense, that's all I ask for. Give me great high-end defense at the very bottom of the lineup from the catcher position. Frame your pitch as well. I'll take it. I could live with it. It's not the end of the world. It sucks, of course, but I'm okay. Mets are going to be fine.
I got one for you. I got a backup suggestion for you.
Oh, let's hear it.
I found him in free agency. He's familiar to the New York Mets.
Oh,
James McCann.
Oh,
James McCann. Bring James McCann. Bring our king back to Queens to back up Luis Torrens. What do you think?
I mean, it's better than what they have right now. I'm not going to lie. It's not the worst thing. If the Mets go externally, it's not the worst thing. I saw, a couple of trades again for like a Grandal or whatever. It's not going to be that. You're either going to go to free agency and get a very cheap veteran minimum type deal like a McCann, or just stick with what you got. Again, you're not looking for a guy to play not even a quarter of the games. Not even a quarter of the games. You're looking for once, maybe twice a week. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine.
Finally, our last bit of notes here on the Empire Express. With all the bad news, with all the injuries, let's get into some good news. And I mentioned I wanted to talk about a former Yankee that's doing big things for the New York Mets, and that is Clay Holmes of all people. I got to tell you what.
I love it.
What Clay Holmes is putting together right now might be one of the better pitching lines we've seen all spring across Major League Baseball. Had another phenomenal performance on Sunday. 3 2/3 innings pitched, no earned runs, over 67 pitches. Thus far, 9 2/3 innings. That's 3 games started. has not allowed a single run, 13 Ks. Corey Favs, are we going to see Clay Holmes on opening day as a starter for the New York Mets?
I'll tell you what, the Yankees could have used him as their new ace now. You had him in the wrong position.
Never was going to happen.
Oh, man. The thing with Clay Holmes, too, like I was a little skeptical, but I had cautious optimism. I was like, you know what? I think he could do pretty well with the pitch mix he has. You take him out of the pressure cooker of a ninth inning save situation. You put him at the start of the game where it's a completely different mindset, where it's a marathon, not a sprint. And he just looks comfortable out there. He has great stuff out there on the mound. And I'm extremely, extremely happy. I think he's going to be the perfect. I honestly think he could be like the Seth Lugo, Michael King. Look at last year and the year before that. Seth Lugo going off as a starter, Michael King going off as a starter. I think this could be the new one of those guys where you take a reliever who had the ability to start, finally gets the opportunity, and completely changes his look. Again, I'm not asking for him to be my ace. He doesn't have to be my ace. I think he could develop into a very nice 3-starter. In terms of who starts opening day, I still think as long as he's healthy, it's Kodai Senga. He's the ace for the Mets. You could have made the case Sean Manaea, but Sean Manaea is out. We'll see what happens. It's very possible, depending on how the season works, you could have one guy start the regular opener, one guy start the home opener. If the Mets do start 6-man, and they're pretty adamant, even with the injuries to Montas and Manaea, that they are sticking with 6-man, that would line up the opener with the home opener as well. So I do think as long as he's healthy, it should still be Kodai Senga. But I'm so pumped with Clay Holmes, man. I could not ask for anything more in this short time of spring training.
Good luck.
Unbelievable stuff there. So Clay Holmes crushing it in Queens. Well, not Queens, but Port St. Lucie thus far. So looking forward to see what Clay Holmes had. And listen, good for Clay. This was a role that was not going to be traveled by as long as he was a member of the Yankees. I don't think this was ever going to be a thing. So it's amazing how he's sort of reinvented himself as a starting pitcher with the New York Mets. But we're going to move forward past the Empire Express. It is 8:32 p.m. on the East Coast. So I just want to shout out a couple. Well, there's one who trickled in here, and that is our very own Sierra Petit, the host of a Bronx Take.
Kick rock, Sierra.
Oh, look at that! See, it goes live Monday through Friday on X from 1:00 p.m. to about 2:00 p.m. We talk Yankees, and it's a lot of fun. So make sure to join us on X as long as the app is working. And today, boy, it's been brutal. So while folks are still trickling in, it is time we get into our main event for tonight, and that is our ESB March Madness bracket for 2025. Now, a year ago, if you were with us, and most of you guys were, last year, we had a bracket on the best baseball jerseys where the St. Louis Cardinals won, and Tom was going crazy over the Creamy Boys last year and the Powder Blues. Oh, man, it was a lot of fun. You got to check out that episode, folks, because we put all the baseball teams and their suite of jerseys through the bracket. So that was a lot of fun. Now, 2 years ago when we first started,
the same day Garrett Cole got hurt.
See,
same day.
Here we are.
Wow, because I was in
and
Clearwater.
Here we are a year later, and he needs Cy Young.
Full circle.
Another March Madness bracket here at Empire.
We got to cancel the match. No March Madness next year.
Yeah, we just
physically cannot take it.
So, but 2 years ago we had a little bit more luck because it was Garrett Cole's Cy Young year. But that was our first year of doing the bracket, and that year we did best baseball movies, and The Sandlot was crowned, rightfully so, the best baseball movie of all time. Now, with that said, to stay on that, and baseball movies over the years have produced some of the greatest fictional baseball players of all time. So I decided to kind of channel back to that old bracket. Let's pull together some of the greatest fictional baseball players ever. And now we were just talking film 2 years ago, but there's a case that could be made for other fictional characters out there. Characters in TV, characters in literature, characters in video games. So I felt like they needed a fair shake at this bracket as well. So this is the most iconic fictional baseball player of all time bracket. And before we reveal the bracket, let's take a look at some of the honorable mentions that did not make the cut. And it was tough to miss some of these names that we got here. You know, especially a guy like Gus Matthews, who seemed to hit a home run every single time he was up for the bench warmers. Or even Jake Taylor, who was a big name for Major League. But Major League, of course, has its own. Major League could have had its own bracket with the amount of personalities it had out there. Even Jack Parkman in Major League 2 was crushing it for both the Indians and the White Sox of that movie. Chet Rocket Stedman missing the list. Steve Nebraska, Keisha Phillips of Backyard Baseball. These are some tough names that we had to leave off our bracket. But here is what we came up with, our field of 16, that we're going to determine who is this iconic fictional baseball player that stands above all. Now, it's kind of an oddly seeded bracket because there's a 1 through 8 on the left side, and then there's 2 1 through 4s on the right side. The left side, we're going to stick to family-friendly films. There's a big presence when it comes to films. Actually, it's 3/4 of our bracket. So family-friendly films will be on the left side, and the top right is more of our dramas. And I realized when I looked at my dramas, I could have did something real special, folks. I could have had the Kevin Costner matchup between Billy Chappell and Crash Davis. We didn't do that. Maybe they'll make it to the next round, but we didn't do that. So that's on me. And then finally, the wild card. And this is where you have your combination of books, TV, and video games. So with that said, I think it's time to get into it. Let's get into our first round of the March Madness bracket. Most iconic fictional baseball player.
Rich, do you have Major League and family-friendly films?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, let's go. And to start things off, and speaking of Major League, our number 1 seed, Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn, or Henry Rowan Gardner, a pair of right-handed pitchers. Tom, Corey, and I'll take the tiebreaker vote if we have to get there. What do you guys think?
Listen, I'm going upset here. I'm going Henry Rosenbagger. I think they call him on the street. Listen, doesn't have the control issues of the Wild Thing, and he's done it. He did what no one could do. He brought the Cubs to the World Series. Henry Rowan Gardner, with a freak injury, just becomes an incredible impact starter. Then he loses his ability. He learns the floater. Give me Henry Runamucker over the Wild Thing.
Wow.
I mean, listen,
How about
Henry may have been, quote
I don't
unquote,
think he kick rocks. There you go.
Henry might have been, quote unquote, rookie of the year. But let me tell you something. I got to go here with the Wild Thing. And if there was one person who might have been able to keep the A's out in Oakland, it would have been him. I'm going with the Wild Thing here. In my opinion, almost no contest.
I feel bad.
Horribly seated for Rowan Gardner. I can't believe
horrible
you did this.
Horrible seating for Henry Rowan Gardner. But Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn is the more iconic pitcher of the two, most iconic baseball player of the two. I got to put through Charlie Sheen's character out of the Major League Series. So Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn's got to move on for me. Okay, so our next matchup here, and again, quite the Major League presence we got going on here. We have Willie Mays Hayes. Willie Mays Hayes, you know, it doesn't matter really if you want to call out the Wesley Snipes or the Omar Epps version of it. Willie Mays Hayes is in our next matchup, and he's up against Mel Clark, our lone representative of Angels in the outfield. Corey, I'll start with you this time. Who you got in this matchup?
And my personal one, I'm going with Willie Mays Hayes. I just love saying his name. I loved watching him in that movie. Willie Mays Hayes. I mean, everyone says that name when you're playing. Oh, there you go, Willie Mays Hayes out there. I'm going with Willie Mays, Major League.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Willie Mays Hayes as well. I think he a deserving winner in this matchup.
Okay, Willie Mays Hayes moves on to the next round, and let's take a look at our chats. Getting into it here, Jack Esposito, Chris Califf both say Willie Mays Hayes, so clearly it was the right choice, and I would have voted with Willie Mays Hayes as well. Okay, our next matchup. This is a bit of a tough one here. We got Hamilton Ham Porter with all the sayings he's got in the Sandlot. Ham checks in with our next matchup, and he's going to be up against our newest entry when it comes to films. That is Stan Ross over at Mr. 3000. Man. So a bit of a tough matchup here. Thomas, what do you got between Hamilton Ham Porter or Stanley Ross?
Listen, give me the ham, give me the pork man here. He's a glue guy. He's behind the plate. He has the catchphrases. He just seems a good teammate, especially with all the things going on in that Sandlot. I think Sandlot needs to be represented multiple times going to the next round. I'm going to tip my hand there and give me Hamilton Ham. Don't call me Pork Chop Porter. Moving on.
This was such a tough matchup. I lean with Ham as well, though. It's sad to see Stan Ross go this quick. But when you think of the Sandlot, there's two guys to come to mind: Benny the Jet and Ham Porter. The one-liners in it, phenomenal. You love to see it. I got to go with Ham.
I think if this was a bracket just based on merit and talent, I think Stan Ross, it's hard to not put in a guy who nearly eclipsed the 3,000 hit mark. But in this case, yeah, if we're going iconic, I mean, Hamilton Ham Porter's got some of the most iconic lines in the history of sports films. It's hard to not push him through to the next round. So Hamilton Ham Porter moves on. So we will now move on to our final matchup of the left side of our bracket when it comes to family-friendly films. We have another representative of the Sandlot, and that's, of course, Benny the Jet Rodriguez. So Benny Rodriguez is up against another representative of Major League, the final one, Pedro Serrano. And I don't know if Pedro Serrano comes with Jobu in this matchup as a B character, but that's our matchup here. Corey Fabs, who do you got?
I really like Pedro Serrano. He's very entertaining in that movie. But Benny the Jet, I mean, he's in addition to Ham, the two of them are the Sandlot. If I'm going pure iconic, Serrano is a phenomenal supporting cast player in that film. But Benny the Jet is the film alongside Ham. I have to go with the Jet on this one.
Listen, you're talking about a child prodigy. I mean, he was out there in the Sandlot again, being a good teammate to everyone, and then not just dominating there, getting the ball back from the Beast, but he makes the majors and he steals home. I mean, Benny the Jet is an all-timer, and I think he should be going very far in this tournament. Give me Benny the Jet.
Dr. Kulo, you have no marbles is not family friendly. Well, listen, I think we're pushing the line when it comes to family friendly. But yeah, I would also have to say Benny the Jet Rodriguez has got to get in here. So that's going to set up a very awkward second round matchup when we get back there. But let's flip to the other side of our bracket. Now we're going to get more into the dramas. And listen, I looked up the definition of drama, and these film entries here do qualify as dramatic films. So we're going to start things off with Roy Hobbs. Roy Hobbs of The Natural. He's going to be matched up against Kevin Costner, one of two, Billy Chapel of For Love of the Game. Thomas, who do you got in this tough matchup here?
I don't think it's that tough of a matchup. Roy Hobbs is, he's talking iconic. He's about as iconic as it comes for baseball characters in film or in any kind of fiction out there. Roy Hobbs, I think he easily clears to move on.
I agree too. I think Hobbs has a potential for a very deep run on this side of the bracket. Legit contender to make it to the Final Four, if not the finals. I'm going with Hobbs as well.
Yeah, I would agree. Roy Hobbs moves on to the next round. Let's get into the next part of our drama films. And we have Dottie Hinton of A League of Their Own, who's our only female entry here on our 16 seed bracket. And once again, Kevin Costner shows up, at this time as Lawrence Crash Davis. Corey Fabs, who do you have in your matchup?
I think this is actually one of the harder matchups too. And I'm going to give it to Dottie. I just think League of Their Own, both of these are great movies. I think League of Their Own has a little something, obviously following the women's sports is a little bit of a different take as opposed to most of the baseball movies out there. I think it's a very fun movie. I'm going to go with Dottie on this one.
Yeah, I got a one Costner rule in this household, so I'm going to give the edge to Dottie here. We don't need a double Costner in the next round.
I I gotta say, I kind of found it funny that when it came to the photo selection here, I mean, you look at Kevin Costner right there. I mean, it's the same smile. It's literally the same smile, different movie, different position. I think it's just funny as hell. All righty. So Dottie Hinson will move on to the next round. And finally, it leads us into our wild card where we're going to have a little bit of fun. First, we have Kenny Powers, the only representative of television, Kenny Powers of Eastbound and Down. And then he's going to be matched up with our only entry representing literature, and it's Sid Finch. Now, Corey Faz, for those out there who don't know about the story of Sid Finch, what can you tell our folks about Sid Finch here?
I mean, it was a very interesting joke by Sports Illustrated. They released it in 1985 on April Fool's Day, and building up the lore of this crazy pitcher that no one heard of. And he was really tall, and he had some of these Neanderthal-type features. He could throw the ball 185 miles per hour, something absurd like that. And again, this is a time before Twitter, before people were on the internet every day. Sports Illustrated printed press was really the primary source of sports news for the average person. So people are reading this like, wow, what's up with this Sid Finch guy? Mm-hmm. The lore of it is really impressive. And that's why I'm giving Sid Finch my vote here, because it was just such a fun thing that Sports Illustrated did. And you still hear, I mean, I'm probably not so much on the Yankee side or other baseball teams, but as Mets fans, I feel like once a year we hear the story of Sid Finch on TV. Essentially,
he was a one-shoe Ben Joyce on fucking crack. Tom, who do you got in this matchup?
Listen, it's not close. It's Kenny Powers. Sid Finch, another guy who can kick rocks, frankly, with his Neanderthal toes. Kenny Powers moves on. And this is also, if Joe was here, he'd be just waxing poetic about Sid Finch. And I'm not here for it. I'm here for this man, Kenny Powers. Frankly, he could be the winner of this whole bracket. He moves on here easily.
Corey, who do you got?
I'm going Sid. I'm 100%.
How
can you not go Sid? He's the only guy who's on Sports. No, I'm just trying to do my best Joe impression.
That was Joe. That was whoa. Shivers.
Oh my God! No, I gotta go Kenny Powers here again. Shout out to Sid Finch and Sports Illustrated for fooling morons in 1985, but Kenny Powers has got to be the one to move on.
Still just many morons out there now.
Lone representative of TV, Kenny Powers. All right, our final matchup here of the first round is all video games, and this one hits home. Love sports video games, but I love some of the more fictional characters that came about, and these are two of the best ones. All right, representing backyard baseball, Pablo Sanchez. This little fat boy is an absolute beast. And there he is, Pablo Sanchez, the legend. And then finally, we have John Dowd. Now, why John Dowd is so special? Well, John Dowd is essentially Barry Bonds. The first entry of John Dowd was right here in MVP Baseball 2005 when, MLB and Barry Bonds couldn't agree on the licensing. So Barry was no longer featured in video games. Well, the Giants had a Barry Bonds fill-in by the name of John Dowd to do that absolute great job in left field for the Giants. Tom, who do you got in this matchup, John Dowd or Pablo Sanchez?
Listen, first, I want to speak to all the window lickers and mouth breathers in our audience here who's going to say, Pablo Sanchez, he's the best. If you know Pablo. Pablo Sanchez is playing against a kid in a wheelchair. What is his competition level? It's a joke. The people, the backyard baseball stands might be the weirdest group of people on the internet, and that is saying a lot. John Dowd, like you said, is Barry Bonds. He's doing it against major. He's hitting homers off of Randy Johnson, Pedro Martinez, Kurt Schilling, Mike Mussina, Roger Clemens. That's his competition. Pablo, this little runt, is hitting off a kid with a wheelchair. What are we doing? What are we doing, people? Grow up.
Tom, I got to say, first of all, John Dowd coming from the best baseball video game of all time, MVP Baseball 05, by far and away. But even though it is the best baseball video game of all time, Tom's take was the worst of all time. Pablo Sanchez going on for me.
Grow up.
I love it. See, Corey is fulfilling both the
Go eat a
Corey role
Go-Gurt.
and Joe role for tonight, and I absolutely love that. Listen, when it comes down to it, yes, did I play more MVP baseball than backyard baseball? Absolutely. But I'm not going to put my bias into the mix here. We're talking most iconic fictional baseball player, and Pablo Sanchez is certainly that guy. So Pablo Sanchez, for me, will have to move on to the next round. Pablo Sanchez moves on to the next round. Now, I know this is not the most up-to-date graphic, but let's just kind of take a look again at where we were here. So our next round is going to be quite the awkward one for family-friendly films, and that's where we continue here. We have Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn against his own teammate, Willie Mays Hayes, with the winner moving on to the semifinals. Corey Favs, who do you have in this matchup?
I mean, Major League, phenomenal movie. I'm glad we have two representatives here making it to the second round. But I got to go with that Wild Thing, man. I mean, you think of Major League, the Wild Thing is the first player that comes to mind. Again, I love Willie Mays Hayes too. I said it before. But I got to go with the Wild Thing here. You're wild if you don't.
Yeah, I guess I'll go with Wild Thing as well. Again, Rowan Gardner clears Willie Mays Hayes as well, but we'll go with the Wild Thing. We'll get Charlie Sheen and his crazy ass into the next round.
Yes, sir. Okay, Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn moving on to the semis. Here in our chat, we had a vote for Vaughn, we had a vote for Hayes. But again, we're gonna keep it awkward. It's a very awkward second round. We have Hamilton Ham Porter versus Benny the Jet Rodriguez now of the Sandlot. Thomas, who are you voting for?
This is a tough one because you said the rules were iconic, but I don't really care what your rules are. Ham probably is more iconic, from that movie. Everything he says is kind of quotable. But I'm going to take Benny the Jet Rodriguez again, a guy who look who's in the center of that poster. Is Ham in the center of that poster? No, Benny the Jet Rodriguez is literally above everyone. Benny the Jet Rodriguez moves on.
Listen, Benny the Jet, without a doubt, is the best player in the Sandlot. I got to go with the heart of the Sandlot, and the heart of that team is the Ham himself. I'm going with Ham. Rich, who you got here?
All right. So what I thought was going to happen happened. Hamilton Ham Porter versus Benny the Jet Rodriguez, and I have the deciding vote. But yeah, Benny the Jet Rodriguez is the better player. Yes, he is the centerpiece. He's featured right underneath the title of the cover. But there is no Sandlot without the quotes, the endless quotes from Hamilton Ham Porter. And again, iconic. Yes, I'm sticking by it. Hamilton Ham Porter makes the Sandlot. Without him, this movie loses all of its essence and all of its comedy glory. I got to go with the upset. I got to go with Hamilton Ham Porter for the next round. And our chat is actually here voting for Benny the Jet Rodriguez. Look at that. Hitman, Benny, CK, Benny, Jack, Benny. But unfortunately, Hamilton Ham Porter moves on.
The chat can kick rocks.
Usually, yeah, but that's fine. Ham's quality. Ham's good people.
So Hamilton Ham Porter moving on. All righty. We have in our next matchup the finals for the drama. We got Roy Hobbs versus Dottie Hinson of A League of Their Own. Corey Favs, who do you got?
Listen, Dottie might be the sweetheart of this pool, and I'm very glad she won a very, very deserving round one. But you want to talk about iconic, you got to go with the legendary player himself. That is Mr. Roy Hobbs, the natural.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with Corey here. Dottie, well-deserving to get into this round, but Roy Hobbs, I think it's a name that even gets invoked, frankly, on Major League broadcast. They'll have a Roy Hobbs moment type thing. I think he does get by here, iconic status.
All right. Well, Roy Hobbs will move on to the semifinals, which leaves our final quarterfinal matchup here. And this one we have to we're crossing I guess styles of fiction, right? Representing TV, we have Kenny Powers of Eastbound and Down, and representing video games, Pablo Sanchez. Corey Favs, who are you voting for?
I am going for the young speedster, baby, Mr. Pablo Sanchez. Don't get me wrong. Kenny Powers, I had a lot of laughs with him. We had a lot of good times. You know, it's like that one X you had a blast. But, man, was it crazy. I'm going with all reliable, the one that's always in your house when you need them most. That is Pablo Sanchez.
So when Corey has kind of go into the comfort of a small boy is what Corey is coming out here saying. And there's no – listen, he said that Corey's words, not mine. Again, Pablo Sanchez and the whole Backyard Baseball crew are some of the weirdest, most it's an overrated series and all that kind of stuff. I couldn't be more out on backyard sports. I couldn't be more in on Kenny Powers. Kenny Powers moves on. He should move on. Rich, do the right thing.
Oh man, this is a tough one. This is a real tough one, folks. Kenny Powers or Pablo Sanchez. Pablo, clearly the face of video games. Kenny Powers, the lone representative of television. Which, by the way, there's got to be more baseball, fictional baseball on TV. I mean, it's ridiculous that there's literally only just this representative of TV here. But when it comes down to it, man,
we get 10,000 hours of Major League Baseball a year on TV. It's enough.
I was getting Hey Arnold or something like that.
I actually did think about that, but
I got to go with the personality. I got to go with Kenny Powers. I got to go with Kenny Powers here, and it's a tough. It is a tough.
Pablo.
That is a tough kick out of Pablo Sanchez, who I would have thought would have probably had a leg up in this whole damn thing. But again, we're talking iconic. No. I need to hear voice. I need to hear quotes, and Kenny Powers is a quote machine. He's a comedy magnet. Absolutely love Danny McBride. I got Kenny Powers moving on over Pablo Sanchez in the next round.
Man, that makes me feel like my team had a chance to win it all and didn't make it to the Final Four, man. Oh, that's a rough one.
Yeah. All righty. Well, we flip now, and again, let's just pull up that full bracket one more time, because we're gonna get down to the finals of the family friendly film here in semifinals all together. But let's start right there, and we continue with Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn, the number one seed who's made it thus this far, and Hamilton Ham Porter coming off an upset over his own buddy Benny the Jet Rodriguez. Corey Favs, we'll start with you. Who do you got?
This is another good matchup, man. And I could make a case for either way, but I think I have to go with the Wild Thing because he just makes my heart sing. Wild Thing for my vote.
Yeah, we Rich, you laid it out there really nice. You know, Hamilton coming off of a truly a monumental upset. You worry, does he have anything left in the tank to go against the Wild Thing? And I'm here to tell you he does have enough in the tank.
Oh,
Hamilton Ham Porter, again, glue guy, team guy, quote guy, a guy you want on your squad. Do you want Wild Thing on your squad? Do you want to travel the road with the Wild Thing? I don't think so. I think Hamilton Ham Porter is a guy. He's what you want on your team. Give me Hamilton Ham Porter.
You got a big one here, Rich.
This is a very big one. Again, it comes down to iconic, not necessarily the best on the field. I can say the Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn style is certainly a thing. We saw it replicated with a guy like James Karachek.
How'd that work out for James Karachek?
It's an easy Halloween costume for those who want to pull something together last minute. But I mean, the Hamilton Ham Porter quotes are featured on T-shirts, man. It is a look, and yes, it could be its own Halloween costume in of itself. And to me, the biasness of how great the Sandlot is compared to Major League,
Do it, Rich.
this is a tough one, guys.
You have the strength to do it.
Wow.
Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn.
Woo! You make my heart sing.
I'm sorry. I have to do it.
Sellout.
I have to do it. It's a more iconic look. He's featured in multiple movies. He's got the theme song. It's Wild Thing for me. There's a reason why he's the number 1 seed. The guy is a legend. I'm going Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn.
I will say
finals.
That was the toughest matchup and probably will be the toughest matchup of the whole bracket. I just think it was two iconic players.
I agree, Chris. Rich is an L7 weenie.
All right, our last matchup on the right side representing drama. We have Roy Hobbs of The Natural, and representing TV, Kenny Powers. Tom, go right on ahead.
Listen, I've been Team Kenny Powers from the start, and after just wiping the floor with that munchkin last round, he goes on and he's gonna take this old man out. Basically, gonna put him. I would say in the cornfield. Different movie. Don't care. Get Roy Hobbs out of here. Kenny Powers to the finals. Kenny Powers.
Corey.
This is another good matchup too, and you got two different teams here. You have the young freshmen, like the wild freshmen, and then you got the seniors with all the lore of Roy Hobbs. And which one do you trust more to get you to a finals? And it's so iconic. I think this is a double overtime thriller, and when it goes that late, I just trust the veterans to hit their free throws. Roy Hobbs.
You want to spend time with Kevin Costner or Danny McBride? Just a question I posed to you.
Well, it's not Kevin Costner. It's Robert Redford. Let's get that.
You know what? Are you right? Yeah, you're right. But still, don't care. There was just so much Costner. I just have Costner on the brain.
Roy Hobbs.
Wow.
Roy Hobbs. Don't even have to think about it. I
I'm out. See ya. We're done.
We gotta go. Roy Hobbs here, and to cap things off for our finals of our 2025 March Madness bracket. Maybe we don't even get Tom's vote in here because he's
I might abstain.
Crashing out. Tom is crashing out. So Tom, we'll start with you on your vote. Tom, who do you got between Roy Hobbs or Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn?
I abstain. I abstain because this should not be the matchup. There has been things going on in this bracket that are just unregulated. It's unfair what has happened to so many more iconic characters. I abstain.
Yeah,
I'm not
Pablo
voting.
Sanchez.
Yeah, I'm not voting.
I'm going with the Wild Thing here too. It's again, two great characters, two completely different personas, similar to the Kenny Powers thing too. I just think there's something about Wild. I mean,
a better
makes
Kenny
that
Powers,
movie.
or a better Wild Thing would be Kenny Powers, but we had to give Roy Hobbs in here.
Luckily for you, you don't even have to vote. Don't even have to vote here.
I wasn't going to
agree with Corey Favs. I go with number one all the way back. Our first mention of this entire bracket, Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn is their most iconic fictional baseball player of all time. There you have it. Ricky Vaughn.
Basically the 2017 Astros of champions.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the other thing too. And the one thing that also put Ricky Vaughn over Hamilton Ham Porter was the argument that was made against Hamilton Ham Porter with Benny the Jet Rodriguez. Yeah, Benny's the main character of Sandlot. Hamilton Ham Porter is the more iconic because of all the quotes. But because there is an argument there, Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn is Major League. There's no question about it. He is the guy of Major League. Epic movie series in of itself. Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn, most iconic fictional character, a baseball player of all time.
This is what we wasted Garrett Cole's elbow for this.
I gotta go out and find your own Wild Thing now too. I gotta get the wild replacement.
Phenomenal stuff. But let's get through our housekeeping notes here. We'll touch on our social media platforms. Thomas, Corey Favs. Let's talk about Instagram and X. Go right on ahead.
Yeah, for Instagram, go ahead and follow us at Empire State of Baseball. You'll see our reels on there. The graphics from the show make its way on there. We post stories. Go ahead and check us out at Empire State of Baseball. And you can follow us all individually as well. Myself at Corey Favs, Joe at JR Pugs, Rich at Rich J. Rivera, and Tom at T. Waspel.
And also on X as well. Make sure to give us a follow at ESB Podcasts individually at Corey Favs, at JR Pugs, at Rich J. Rivera, and at T. Waspel. Make sure to give a Bronx Take team a follow as well. Recently expanded the team at Boogie Dan NYY, at Christy Evans 618, and at Sierra Not Missed. Make sure to join the 3,300 plus over on X. Tom, how about YouTube?
So listen, here's what I want you all to do. Go to YouTube, go to the search bar, look up Kenny Powers Eastbound and Down clips, and then I want you to compare them and see if we'd have a more fun time watching those or Roy Hobbs clips. And just test that out for me if you wouldn't mind. But once you're done doing that, head over to the Empire State of Baseball YouTube account where you can watch this. I would say quality program, but that is in question at this point. Give us a like, follow, share, comment. Again, we have our clips on there. We have the YouTube shorts posted as well. We'll definitely be ramping up as the baseball season goes on. Support us there. Huge way to help us out.
And just to continue with some of the housekeeping notes, again, join us for our daily Yankee Spaces Monday through Friday at 1:00 p.m. That is a Bronx Take. A lot of good Yankee discussion there. And make sure to join us for our next episode of Empire State of Baseball, number 117, which happens to be on March 17. This is going to be our preseason predictions episode. Again, another tradition we do here on ESP. We go through it all. We go through the division winners, wild card, World Series. We have some bold predictions, MVP, Cy Young. So that's going to be slated for next week's show. And just as a heads up, in a couple weeks' time for the March 24th area, we're actually going to be having a bye week. We're not available for the show that week, so we're going to be taking the week off. And you
guys want a solo Tom show that could be on the table.
If you guys want a solo Tom show, that
the people want it.
Yes, that potentially may or may not happen. But then we will be back regardless Tom show or not, for season 4.
You would never see ratings like you would see on a solo Tom show
on March 31st.
Whispers with Waspel.
So the 4th episode. Wait, what was that, Corey?
Whispers with Waspel.
Whispers with Waspel.
The gospel with Waspel. Is really
there you go.
So there you go. But we'll be back next week regardless, and then we'll figure it out the rest of March when the time comes there. Again, special shout out to Joe and Chrissy. Hopefully they're having a great time at home. Shout out and love to the Puglisi's. But let's get around the room and call it a show. Corey Favs, Tom, any final words?
Pablo Sanchez got thrown in detention too early, man. He should have made it a little further. But I'm happy with the results. I thought it was good finals.
Thomas?
Nope.
Okay. We'll take it. And that's it. That's our show. Empire State of Baseball, number 116 in the books. Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn, most iconic fictional baseball player of all time. Like it, love it, deal with it. That's your bracket. We'll see you next week for number 117. Take care.